What's going on, guys? It's David, and today we're back with another video. This is going to be about the AirPod Maxes and the AirPod Pros and putting them head to head. Now, you might be wondering why we're comparing the AirPod Pros and the AirPod Maxes, but it's because they're actually more similar than they are different. Now, for both of these, we're going to be using three different categories to judge them: price, quality being sound and build quality, and then the day-to-day use case scenario for at least me and what I think the target buyers for each of these headphones would be. Now, you would think with the price difference of the Maxes coming in at $550 and the AirPod Pros coming in at $250 that there would be a massive difference, and technically within the form factor there is, but within the actual quality, you might be surprised. Obviously, the price difference is drastic. You can buy two pairs of AirPod Pros and still have $50 left over instead of buying the AirPod Maxes. Now, I will say these two headphones go on sale very often in different places: Amazon, Target, Walmart, wherever you're buying them. But on Apple right now, at the recording of this video, they are actually still full price. I almost forgot to mention also, these are the new USB-C AirPod Pros, which is honestly the whole reason why I even picked these up. I had the AirPod Maxes for a little bit over a year now, and I didn't think I would ever pick up a pair of Pros just because obviously you would think these are much better. But once Apple came out with the USB-C version, it was kind of a no-brainer for me because I have the iPhone 15 and it would just mean that I would have to take one cord with me. So because of that, I actually was picking these up a lot more than I was the AirPod Maxes. Not to say that the AirPod Maxes are bad, but just that convenience factor of having USB-C and only having to bring one cable kind of almost forced me to bring the AirPod Pros. Now, the build quality. Obviously, the AirPod Maxes are gonna take the lead on that end, being almost completely made of aluminum and just high-end materials. Also having those removable ear cups, just in case you lose one or, you know, they get a little bit dirty and you just need to replace them. That happens with a lot of headphones. I love the build quality on these. Everything from the buttons to just the whole headphone in itself. It's very, very well made. Now, that does not take away from the AirPod Pros. Yes, they're made out of plastic, obviously, but this plastic isn't like a cheap creaky plastic that you can actually squeeze and feel give. Like, I'm squeezing these and I don't feel any give within this. It's a very, very solid plastic that they're using. I'm not sure on the compound itself, and the same goes for the actual earbuds as well. Very, very nice plastic. Both of these headphones, you're not going to have issues with them breaking as far as hardware goes. Now, I will say I have two negatives within the build quality, nothing to do with it actually being able to break, but I had these headphones when I didn't have the Pros and I was running with them outside, holding them just like this, and I lost an ear cup. And these ear cups are not cheap either. These are like $70 from Apple themselves. So I had to buy both of the ear cups, even though I only lost one. And that's something that's a little bit annoying. These magnets are not very strong, but they're pretty strong. Like, they're not gonna just fall from regular use, but I was swinging them around and trying to get into my car because it was raining. So that's something to be wary about. I don't know if that's just a problem with me or if anybody else has had that problem, but I thought I'd note it. And as far as the AirPod Pros go, I am seeing some yellowing on this case, and I have only used these for like 2 to 3 months around there, and there is a lot of yellowing on the case. So keep in mind, I'm not using these in any crazy scenario. They're literally just going in and out of my pocket, setting them down on the table. Like, they're not being thrown around like that. So that is a negative. To fix that problem, I did go ahead and buy a black case for it. This nice leather black case that I just put the AirPod Pros in, and that completely just helps that situation. But it is a little bit unfortunate to see a headphone at this price point specifically start to yellow that quickly. Now, moving on from build quality to sound quality, we're gonna go through the transparency mode, the noise cancellation, and obviously the sound quality itself. I will say it's a little bit shocking how close the AirPod Pros come to competing with the AirPod Maxes. The sound quality is not that far off. Obviously, the AirPod Maxes are gonna be a little bit better just because it's an over-ear headphone, and the more space you give sound, the better it usually is, and that is the case for these. But I will admit, it's kind of hard to tell the difference in some scenarios with the AirPod Pros for being an in-ear earbud. The sound quality is fantastic on both of these, but I will give the extra edge to the AirPod Maxes on that end. Now, for me personally, I don't know if I'm going crazy or not, but You would think because the sound quality is better on the AirPod Maxes that they would have better transparency mode, but I'm not sure about that. I think the AirPod Pros actually have a better transparency mode. I literally have these in my ear all the time in transparency mode, and I feel like I can hear perfectly, like there's nothing in my ear. Not to say that the AirPod Maxes don't have good transparency mode, but I can tell that they're on my ears. Like I can tell that there's something in between me listening to the outside world and my ears. So that's why I give these slight edge. Again, these are all very, very minimal edges to the AirPod Pros when it comes to the transparency mode. I know it might sound a little bit crazy, and let me know if you guys think differently, but that's just my opinion. Now for the noise cancellation, again, very, very, very similar. Honestly, I can't tell too much of a difference, but what does help the AirPod Maxes come up just a little bit better than the AirPod Pros is obviously having a good noise cancellation even without them being on. So putting these on your head, you can already hear the outside world get muted very, very much. And once you turn that noise cancellation on, it just completely eliminates all sound. So again, I have to give the slight edge to the AirPod Maxes on the noise cancellation side. Okay, now for the use case scenario, obviously transportation is a big deal to a lot of people that are using these and going out and about. The AirPod Maxes are obviously bigger. They do come with a case. Some might say it's a case. I say it's a cover. This is a very not the greatest thing to come out of Apple's lineup, okay? This is basically just to protect it from scratches in your bag or wherever you're tossing them versus any impact protection. This is really not gonna do too much if these headphones fall, but it's nice to have, I guess, better than nothing. Now, obviously, the AirPod Pros are a little bit smaller. They already have that charging case, so I will give transportation, obviously, to the AirPod Pros, and I find them to be just a little bit better for that day-to-day, putting them in your ear, only having one if you want to still hear very well on the other end. Okay, now for battery life. The AirPod Maxes come in at 20 hours of battery life, and for your day-to-day, that's perfectly fine. That is more than enough realistically, especially if you're charging all of your stuff at the end of the day. It's not that big of a deal, but for this price range of $550, you would expect better, especially because of the competition having much better battery life. Again, it's not gonna really be that big of a deal because 20 hours is more than enough. Now the AirPod Pros, just for the buds itself, whenever you take them out of that charging case, these buds are gonna last 6 hours, and that doesn't seem like too much, obviously coming from 20 hours with the AirPod Maxes, but with the charging case, you're gonna have a total of 30 hours of battery life. So it actually exceeds the AirPod Maxes. And realistically, I don't know anybody that's keeping their headphones in for 6 hours straight. That's a little bit crazy, and my ears would definitely be fatigued before that. So within placing your headphones in and out of the case, you're never really gonna have an issue with battery life. Now again, the major reason I even have the AirPod Pros and picked them up was because Apple came out with that USB-C case, and that kind of sold me. Now that's where the AirPod Maxes take a turn for the worse. They are still using Apple's Lightning port, and everything is slowly moving away, and we might even see a new pair of AirPod Maxes come out soon with USB-C, but I can't speak for the future. This is what we have right now, and that's where these just kind of completely fall out of line in my everyday carry, unfortunately. Now, another positive to the USB-C AirPods is not only are the USB-C, but you can charge these wirelessly. So that comes in super clutch and giving you multiple ways of charging. And that's where the AirPod Maxes take another L. There's only one way to charge them, and it's that stupid Lightning port. Another little thing to mention is that they both do not have a on and off switch. The AirPod Maxes just continue to die little by little, but using that case, it does put it into low power mode. And honestly, I haven't had an issue. I know a lot of people complain about not having a on and off switch, but I usually keep all my stuff charged, and I've never had an issue of these just dying on me in the middle of work or anything. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it's something to mention. The same goes for the AirPod Pros. In this case, they go into this low power mode as well, with the case dying or the AirPod Pros themselves. So something to mention, but nothing to worry about. Now, the last thing is going to be the buttons and the hardware within both of these headphones. On the AirPod Maxes, again, it's made very well out of aluminum, and it's super simple to use. So we have the transparency mode button on the front that puts it into transparency mode, obviously, and noise cancellation. And then on the back, we have the crown dial that not only controls your volume, but it also is your play and pause. Now, on the AirPod Pros, we actually have all the controls within the stems of your AirPod AirPod Pros. So clicking it is gonna give you that play and pause, and also holding it is gonna give you that transparency mode or noise cancellation. And then they have touch controls, which is just swiping your finger up or down on the stem to control your volume. So both of these have really great ways of controlling them and controlling your music or whatever you're listening to without having to use your phone. Now the question is, which one should you pick up? Personally, I have both of them obviously, and I've been using the AirPod Pros so much more than the AirPod Maxes. And the reasoning is only because of the USB-C. I think once Apple comes out with a new pair of AirPod Maxes that actually have USB-C, it's gonna future-proof them for a long time, and there's not gonna be too much of a difference between both of them. Personally, I like earbuds a little bit more when I'm out and about because it gives me more flexibility, and I know this is gonna sound a little bit stupid, but it doesn't mess my hair up either. So I end up picking up these a lot more than I have the AirPod Maxes. These are very good for if you're gonna have like a nice editing session. Putting these on, you kind of forget they're there, even though they're a little bit heavy. If you're not moving around or doing any jolty movements, these as work headphones are fantastic. Not to say that you can't use the AirPod Pros, but I think it comes down to these are a little bit outdated and these are brand new with all the newest features. So for me, especially at the price point, I would go ahead and pick up the AirPod Pros. But you guys let me know what you would choose down below in the comments, and I'll see you next week. Peace.